Hello. My name is Thriller Lee 2K, and this video today is going to be another amazing video. I've gotten a lot of motivation, encouragement from the past couple days of me posting my videos on TikTok and posting my short video on YouTube regarding of the Poppy Playtime teasers that we've been receiving. And once again, I know that's coming, the new chapter is coming very soon, and I know we're all looking forward to that. But that's not the reason why I'm making this video. And no, it has nothing to do with Poppy Playtime, even though I'm very looking forward to the specific date. Hint, hopefully I am correct of my teaser date, that maybe another teaser gameplay may be released, but that's not what I'm getting into. So the other thing I'm getting into, because there is a very specific game that is releasing their chapter 2 very soon, early, hopefully 2026, which is this year, which most of you are already familiar with, which is created by the game developer Indigo. Yes, the one and only Indigo Park. Yes, I absolutely love Indigo Park. Indigo is a great game developer for creating such a breathtaker change of a game, such as this one. And I always wanted to do a theory video, my what if, on Indigo Park, and what we know so far, and what we are going to get into with the new upcoming chapter 2, where we dive more into Oceanic Odyssey and meeting new characters. But as of right now, I wanted to go back into chapter 1, knowing what chapter 1 was about, who are these characters that are a part of Indigo Park. What are some significance of events we have seen in Indigo Park? What are these animal mascots, and what do they play inside Indigo Park? And of course, go into what we are looking forward to in chapter 2. So I know everyone has done their theory on Indigo Park chapter 1 in the past, and I figure I might as well chime in on mine, and hopefully Unique Geese in the future looks at mine and see what he has to say about it. So I'm going to get into this, but before I get into this, I'm going to go grab my cookies, because I'm very excited, because I always wanted to do my video on this, and I'm feeling really hungry and excited. So I need my favorite chocolate chip cookies, and I'm gonna grab my notes, because this is gonna be a lot of talking, and I'm gonna grab them. So I'll be right back. Now, in Indigo Park, chapter 1, Birds of a Feather, it starts off with introducing our character, which is he goes by Ed, and he is, I believe, what they like to call these people, urban explorer, an urban explorer, and he has this channel, or I believe a company or a channel called Ensign. And if you don't know what an urban explorer is, it's these kinds of people that likes to explore abandoned sites, abandoned buildings, and places, you know, just to discover if anything like hidden underneath it, just to like to explore to see if there was anything left behind. But that's what they call urban explorers, and I think that's what our character is, Ed, because he decided to visit the old amusement park that he used to visit as a child, which is called Indigo Park. And as we know, that has closed down approximately 8 years ago, of the time frame when we are playing the game. And when, just a quick run through of this chapter, when arriving at the entrance of this park, We are greeted by the AI guide and assistants, of course, none other than Rambly the raccoon, who's also the main face of Indigo Park today. And he assists us in entering the park and guiding us where to go, while I like to say suspiciously covering up some stuff with excuses. And it's very hilarious how he be trying to cover it up, especially when he uses one of the terms for renovations.
Looks like the park is going through some renovations.
And along our journey, exploring Indigo Park, when Rambly the raccoon gives us access to the park, we meet, us as Ed meets two animal realistic mascots, Lloyd the lion, or Lloyd for the lion, and Molly McCall. And of course, in that journey, we first meet Lloyd the lion in his main stage theater, and with that, of course, we do scare him away with the critter cuffer, because he was scared away by the sound, which is kind of like a dog whistle, by the sound of it. Of course, we know that he is still alive, though, because he did run away. He didn't die. He's still alive. And after that, we also do have a run-in with Molly McCall in her place, Jetstream Junction. And of course, we do end up having to kill, Molly was killed, not by us though, but her head was decapitated by the door when Rambly was shutting it for us when he saw us being chased by her. And of course, at the end of this chapter, Rambly finally tells Ed the truth of the real reason why he's there, and that he wasn't being truthful from the beginning, in which we kind of knew he wasn't I mean, I know most of you knew he wasn't being truthful. I knew he wasn't being truthful. We all know that by now. But he wasn't being truthful of telling Ed everything of what happened, including these animal mascots. And because he was just so excited to see someone like Ed after the years of the park being closed down, and him being alone and being in the front of the entrance. He had hopes of hopefully someone coming along and giving them that dream of hopefully repairing and restoring the Indigo Park as it should be. And that's when we also head into the Oceanic Odyssey area, and that's where we do take a nap, as Rambly the raccoon describes at the end of the chapter, like, hey buddy, looks like you need to rest. And that's when the chapter closes. So that was a really quick overall rundown of what chapter 1 was and what Ed had encountered in chapter 1. So before we go further into this video, I wanted to really tackle and get into the characters, because the characters definitely plays a good role into Indigo Park, and how they connect, and the relationship with Indigo Park, and also how they interact with one another. So with that being said, we're going to get into one of the most common and one of the most famous characters, is of course Molly McCall. And as you all know, Molly McCall, she's a blue and yellow macaw. And she is also Rambly the raccoon's best friend. And as we all know, Molly McCall, she is a pilot who she pilots airplanes. We also know from the Molly Ahoy show that she's a captain of her pirate crew. And she's also a mechanic because she builds her airplanes. Now, one of the most things she loves to do, well, the only thing she loves doing is building planes and even crashing them. She has this fun and joy from doing that. And of course, she does have her own area in Indigo Park, which is the Jet Stream Junction. And what we know about Molly is that she's very fun. She's very joyful, always positive, has that very happy, positive attitude. And that's something that I can relate to because I'm always happy. I'm always positive. Has that really good energy. And that's something I wanted to really compliment Unique Geese about, because I love how he chose Molly McCall as a character, because as some of you might not know about McCalls, is that McCalls has really good energy and that strength. And it fits very well with Molly because of what she does and loves best when she builds those airplanes and crashes them. She never gives up on that. She just continues to do so. And she's very loyal, and has such good partnership with her other friends and the other characters within like Rambly, Loy the Lion, Fenley, and she also is very good with expressions, like expressing herself and not afraid to talk, you know. And that's what McCalls are known for. They have a lot of expressions when it comes to talking, and that's why I really love how he chose McCall and Molly McCall as a character for Indigo Park. So right on, Unique Geese, genius, love it. Fits very well. Now the next character I'm going to be doing is Lloyd the Lion. Well, I'm sorry, not Lloyd the Lion, as correct as he like to present himself as. Lloyd for L Lion, as he like to go by. And as we know, Lloyd for is a actor and a performer, loves to do shows in the theater. He has this, as we all know from what we was reading about his character and what we've seen in the game, that he has a very big ego. He's very theatrical, even at times arrogant. Especially when we heard that in the Rambly's Railroad, and how he was talking to Rambly. I wouldn't say rude, but I did hear a little hint of rudeness in there too. But that's because I think as the lion he is all about like royalty, and the fact that he kind of fits well as someone kind of similar to like a nobleman. So that's kind of like how the way he acts. But there's always that royalty, and that's what is a trait for lions, of course, that royalty. So that's why Lloyd for acts the way he does. Well, I keep saying Lloyd. I'm gonna call him Lloyd, okay? But that's Lloyd's personality, you know, and that's what lions are. Now, we do know that Lloyd definitely cares about his friends. He does have a heart. And we see that, you know, and as we've known as we known from hints in the game, that he was actually the main face of Indigo Park in the early years, before Rambly Raccoon became the main face as it is now, because we saw hints of it in the game, like in the beginning of Indigo Park, in the video when Isaac Indigo, who is the creator of Indigo Park, he was making a speech, and we saw in that clip that Lloyd was the face, was one of the faces near the entrance of Indigo Park. But now, today in the gameplay, we saw Rambly Raccoon is replaced. And we saw another hint where there was a retro plush of Lloyd the Lion, like a very old version of Lloyd the Lion. And also, before Rambly Railroad was the ride it was, I believe, and I know everyone was thinking the same way, that it was originally Lloyd's limo, you know, before it became Rambly's Railroad. But we also do see a picture where Lloyd was giving like the deed to Rambling the Raccoon, like handing it to him, and that's like a sign, like, here, I'm passing I don't know how to describe it, everything I have to you, since now you're going to be the new face of Indigo Park. I couldn't think of a better word for it. But as we know, like, because of that, because Lloyd was the face in the early years, that shows that he had some kind of leadership. And of course, that is what lions are, is that they have leadership as a trait. And once again, that I love Uniqueys. He was a genius when he was picking out these characters. Well, of course, I mean, some people will probably look at me weird when I say he's a genius, but it was a really creative way to come up with these characters and these specific animals too. So, but it definitely fits very well with the Indigo Park. But of course, as lions, they do pose as a predatory threat, and we kind of seen that when we did interact with the mascot version of Lloyd the Lion. So, anyways, moving on. The next character, Finley the Sea Serpent, which I find hilarious because I think he's the only one, besides Scurv the Coyote, in which I know he's in chapter 2, but I think he's the only one that I know so far, character-wise, that doesn't have that alliteration name. I mean, there's Molly McCall, there's Lloyd for the Lion, and Rambling Raccoon, and Salem Skunk. So I think he's the only one that I know, besides Scurv the Coyote, but that doesn't have that alliteration for the name. But I love it, and either way it goes. But Finley, the Sea Serpent, he is the green sea serpent, the very most mythological fantasy mythical creature that was known in the history of books. And as we know, in Indigo Park, Finley is very shy. He's very melancholic, and as his hobby, he loves to collect seashells, and which I think is very adorable. He loves to collect seashells, and how he uses the coming out of the shell, and it's too cute. And that he is, when he's feeling outgoing, he can be silly, reckless in a silly way. And we know that Finley can be a bit, I wouldn't say depressed, but he does feel lonely, down. But that's because he is very shy when it comes to interacting with others. But as we know, don't know any more about Finley the Sea Serpent, but with his character as the Sea Serpent, he's known for his traits to be unknown and a mystery. And as of right now, he is unknown and a mystery because we have not yet met him yet, but we're going to in chapter 2, and I'm very looking forward to that. So let's just keep that in mind for Finley. Next, I want to get into the villain of Indigo Park, which is Salem the skunk. Now, I know that Salem the skunk is non-binary, so their pronouns are her and them. So we know that Salem is a skunk, and they are very intelligent, but they are also a villain to Rambly and the other characters at Indigo Park, and they make these contraptions and these inventions. So they are very smart and very got that creativity and intelligence, but we also know that Salem is a from we saw in the arcade game, a potion brewer as well. And I thought also that was awesome too, unique, because of course the name is Salem Witch. Go back to the Salem trials back in the days. Genius. But also, if I'm not correct, I think we know that Salem lives in Rambleberry Woods, but we could be wrong. But like I said, I thought Unique Geese was amazing coming up with this idea of the character, because for some of you who don't know about skunks, but skunks are, of course, wisdom, and when it comes to defending themselves in defense mode, they have this willpower to stand their ground fearlessly, just for being who they are. And that's what we have saw in Salem, even if it was just in that arcade game, and even from what we was getting from a mist of this character and what we read about this character, we know that they definitely have that willpower and definitely can stand up for themselves. So that's what we know so far about Salem. So I know hopefully we probably will see a maybe perhaps animal mascot of Salem in the future, so we'll see. But I love the idea of that character. Now, last but not least, we're gonna get into the one and only, the now face of Indigo Park. You already know, Rambly the raccoon. I'm gonna need a cookie for this because this is gonna be a lot. And I'm gonna drink some milk too. The only reason why is because everyone has been having their own opinions on Rambly the raccoon and whether he's a good person or a bad person. So, and of course, it has been confirmed by Unique Geese that he's not a villain. He's not a bad guy. He's not at all. And I agreed, and I will get into the reason why, and hopefully, like I said, if Unique Geese sees my video, and hopefully he can connect and understand why I think he's not a bad person too, and hopefully you guys understand as well. And once again, I really thought that making Rambly a raccoon is amazing. Reminds me of a little bit of Mickey Mouse. I think that's what he was trying to inspire the character by, which is Mickey Mouse. But I could be wrong, but that's what I was getting from Rambly the raccoon in the beginning of the gameplay. But anyways, let me stop my bragging. Let's get into Rambly the raccoon now. Now we know Rambly the raccoon, a purple raccoon, the main character of Indigo Park, the main face everyone loves and loves the merchandise and all of the above. Now, he does also have a very important role, another important role at Indigo Park, in which we all know we've seen him is as an AI guide and assistance in the park, and also informational as well. We know that Rambly is definitely a talker. He loves his trains. That's why he got Rambly railroads named after him because he does love his trains. And it was so cute how he had that quick video, like quick dialogue, like, because I love trains. Anyways, he is very childish, don't get me wrong. Rambly is very childish, but he does have a ongoing personality and it is kind and well-meaning, benevolent at times. And as we all know, he's also Molly McCall's best friend. Like, they got that really good best friendship. And he loves having fun. He got that outspoken energy, I say high energy. Now that I went into that, a little bit about Rambly and what he is, there was videos that I've watched the videos, and I've seen comments about Rambly being whether or not he's a bad guy or not. And of course, as we all know, Unikies have confirmed Rambly the raccoon is not a villain. He's not the bad guy. So, and I agreed. Rambly the raccoon is not, okay? But just because you're not a villain doesn't mean you can't cause trouble, because Rambly has done it a lot in chapter 1. And you guys can't agree with me on this, because he has. But that does not mean he's a villain, though, because trust me, there are good people out there that causes trouble. I mean, I've caused trouble before, you know? And of course, and this goes back to being who he is. And of course, I'm going back to the animal that he is, because Rambly is a raccoon. And as some of you who do or don't know, that raccoons are known for being very clever and curiosity. And of course, that's where the cleverness will come in hand of him being very useful and resourcefulness when he is guiding us throughout the park and helping us along the way. Being the AI that he is, I thought that was really clever of what they done for him in Indigo Park. Because he could have just been another animal mascot, you know, or he could have just been in the walkie-talkie or something. But no, they created him as an AI, you know, and raccoons are clever. So, and he has such also curiosity, and sometimes, which, you know, that curiosity does come with the territory of the idea of him restoring and repairing Indigo Park. And I know he finally did in the end, told Ed about it, but come on, that wasn't the best way to go about it. But it was nice though. He still came out and told him about it. But also, as you guys know, and this is where I come into place, like I said, just because you're not a villain doesn't mean you cause trouble. Now, raccoons can be mischievous. Not mischievous, I don't know. People pronounce the word mischievous wrong. I was told growing up in school that it's called mischievous. Mischievous, yeah. Not mischievous, mischievous. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's what I grew up learning about the word. And there are good people who has that trait, and which is perfectly normal. It really is. And as for a teacher, as a teacher myself, I have good students who has that personality. I mean, I have a little bit of that personality too, but don't tell anyone. and as I was going through the gameplay, and that's what I was seeing and Rambly of that person, of that trait, you know. And of course, we all know that they can play tricks. I wouldn't say harmful tricks, but he did have a little bit of it in the game. But he did play tricks. He did play tricks because Rambly did had Ed come inside the park without telling him much. And he did not warn Ed ahead of time about the mascots, and he was hiding the truth until the end, and also was covering up the excuses about the park being in renovations and currently being in the middle of fixing uppy. And also allowing to have Ed take risks that can also end up getting Ed in trouble, in which we literally had Ed get into trouble in the gameplay.
Hey, buddy, I've got eyes all over the park, but I can't see anything behind the stage. If you're going back there, be careful. Your Criticov is not yet able to resuscitate you.
Where we have interacted with those mascots and going into figuring out the puzzles and doing tasks, you know. And of course, he was also being too playful and childish in the game, in which, of course, we saw some of that, especially in the tantrums he had when interacting with Lloyd and the plushie, which, of course, I can play that back if you guys don't remember the tantrum he had.
He's the loudest. I can be loud too. Where's my limited edition throwback plush?
And yeah, overall, that's what I think. Like I said, Rambly is definitely not a villain. He's a good guy. He's not the bad guy. He just has a very interesting mischievous trait. Do I still think he's still not telling the truth? Yes, because there is still questions that I have, especially with the whole idea of repairing the park, especially with the condition that it's in. And I'll go more into that in the next topic. But I think he's still holding back on a lot, because I think there is more on what Rambly knows that we don't. Because yes, of course, another trait of raccoons, they can hide the truth, but they can still be good. Okay? Now, of course, he is absolutely resourcefulness, because he did, like, once again, helped us a lot along the way, especially when we were trying to get away from Molly McCall at the end of the near the end of the chapter, when she was chasing Ed. So, which is another trait for raccoons. So, like I said, once again, unique geese, love it, love you for that, and thank you for clearing up that Rambly is not a villain, because I don't think he is, but he was wrong for what he did though. So now we're gonna move on to the topic of Indigo Park and what it is and what it's looking like as of right now in the game of Indigo Park. So as you all know, Indigo Park is an amusement park and also a resort home, because come to find out, you can stay there, like make reservations to stay there, which is amazing. And it has been founded and created by Isaac Indigo, and it was created 100 years ago, and this was supposed to be inspired by Disney World. And because, like I said, this is where guests can visit and stay at too. And of course, you got these characters and these mascots and such amazing rides and places to eat and to just relax. So like I said, this is an inspiration, and I like inspiration from the idea of Disney World. And as we know, in the early years of Indigo Park, Lloyd, I'm not going to say Lloyd 4. Lloyd was the original main face of Indigo Park until years later down the line, Rambly the raccoon took over. because that's when, of course, you know, the park has changed over the years, such as incorporating technology into the park, such as the critter cuffers, because I mean, you don't really see like technology like that back in 100 years ago, you know. So critter cuffers, new rides, of course, such as we saw in Rambley's Railroad, which was originally Lloyd's limos.
So, what do you
And,
think?
of
Pretty
course,
fun,
we do
right?
have
Now you know
AI
all about my
assistants
friends
like Rambley the
and Lloyd.
raccoon.
So,
And also the idea of these new animal mascots, which is literally real animals. And we're going to get into that in the next topic, because I kind of have an idea of who they are, how they were created. Now, in Indigo Park, not only there was a amusement park and resort, but there was also shows too, that were played with Rambley and friends and the friends, and also a special channel called Indigo Channel too. We also saw a clip of that of Molly Ahoy, the Molly Ahoy show, which was a premiere show of it, where Molly Ahoy is a pirate with her crew, and Skur the Coyote as a villain. So, but as we all know, at Indigo Park, about approximately 8 years ago, from the gameplay, there was an incident that occurred that forced the park to shut down. Now, it could have something to do with the animal mascots, because of course we do see, of course, blood on Lloyd the lion's claws, and we do see that Molly McCall doesn't really have like clothes on and still her hat on, and we also see that it has got bad to the point where at the entrance of Indigo Park there were still boxes and a forklift that looks like they were in the process of still moving stuff out of Indigo Park, but it's like everyone disappeared, like left everything alone. That's how bad it was. I mean, yeah, they forced the park to shut down, but in the midst of moving everything, it's just like everyone left. So it was pretty bad. Something must, like I said, it had maybe the animal mascots. Like, what if they went on a rampage? Because that could be a good, valid reason why. And I can go into the reason why in our next topic about the animal mascots. But as of right now of Indigo Park, we can tell that the park was left unattended over the years of the shutdown, as Rambley said, because of the conditions of the park. And we see in the gameplay of Chapter 1, we see there are bulks of concrete rubbles. There are buildings in ruins from moisture and dampness, and we have mold that is built up. We see examples of it in Rambley's Railroad when we're going through each of the exhibits. And Rambley's Railroad, you see like the mold and dampness on the walls of the ride, and also Landing Pad. Oh my gosh, Landing Pad was in such horrible conditions, and oh, I can only imagine. And of course we see like the conditions, the stains and mold on the walls of the park too, which also can be one of the causes for the walls of the park to crumble, to like break apart and to fall into ruins, to break apart, fall down and crack, you know. Because of course there's no maintenance, because once again all the employees left, so there's a lack of maintenance, lack of self-care of the park, maintaining the park. There's also a lack of power. There was no power to the park for 8 years. So imagine of an abandoned amusement park for 8 years. And it's just like that with the abandoned buildings, abandoned sites, you know? You just got that mold, moisture, damped atmosphere, environment. And there's also also another cause of the dampness and moisture and mold is because there's no consistent airflow, which of course that creates harsh conditions for moisture buildup, which leads to mold. And also we see that there is grass growing from the ground, like through the cracks of the sidewalks from and it's horrible. And my question, and like I said earlier, like how they are going to restore the park in the conditions that it's in. And I just wonder whether Rambley is too blind to see it, or he's not telling us the whole story, or he's just stupid, because that's just how AI is like. But no, that can't be it though. That's why it has me questioning, you know? So I don't know. That's why I was just like, it's gonna, like I said, these chapters, I don't know how many chapters there's going to be, but this is gonna get interesting though. Because like I said, the park is in, oh my gosh, harsh conditions. Even I couldn't even bear to be in Landing Pad, because Landing Pad was so horrible. Like, especially when we was being chased away by Molly Pad and the Landing Pad, there was like so much dust, dirt, mold. It was just disgusting. And then the conditions that Molly McCall was into, she just had like builds up of patches of I couldn't just imagine. Even Lloyd the Lion, see the condition he was in. So, and that's what we're gonna get into next, is the animal mascots. So, as we all know, in the gameplay of Chapter 1 of Indigo Park, we were introduced to animal mascots. And of course, Indigo Park had brought in animal mascots, like realistic animals, like real animals, into Indigo Park. And it replaced the employees that were, of course, dressing up as the characters from Indigo Park. So they actually bring in animals as the mascots of the characters of Indigo Park. Now, we was able to know this thanks to the valuable clip audio that we've heard from the kiosk, the informational kiosk that Rambley the Raccoon played.
Hey Jackson, you hear about the new mascots?
Yeah, think it'll put us out of a job?
I think so. Old sport. And right after we got this damn raccoon costume.
And that we learned that the employees were upset because of course they were overthrown by the new mascots. I mean, I would if I heard that there were new mascots that were taking over my position, me dressing up as a mascot of one of the characters, you know. But it also tells us that Indigo Park was doing some really secretive, shady, risky stuff behind the scenes. Kind of similar to the majority of the games we have played in the past. Poppy Playtime, Five Nights at Freddy's, but of course, Indigo Park, between Indigo, the amusement park, the merchandise and the shows, the views and money they were bringing in, it makes sense that they were able to make this stuff happen and pull it off, you know, of course. They were able to pull it off. But, you know, I've learned, you know, as myself being a teacher and a fanatic of a particular movie series, that I may have a feeling of how they were possibly created, because of course we know that the mascots are actually animals. We saw it Molly McCall was an actual macaw, and Lori the lion was an actual lion with actual claws that lions have, with the long tail that they have. And where does this comes from? How are we able to make stuff like this? Were we able to make animals like this? Well, they must. What if behind the scenes of Indigo Park, there was like a team, and what if they have done this through, of course, what I like to call animal genetic engineering? You know, the beauty of biology, science, you know, because that's what you do when you are editing and modifying animals' DNA and using tools and giving them new traits and combining those genes. That's what you're doing with animals' genetic engineering. And I actually was teaching that in one of my lessons too. You know? So what if that's what they were doing and how they created those animals? Because it is possible. You can actually do that. You can actually create animals through genetic engineering. You can actually create an animal from scratch. We have the technology these days to do that, make it happen, create an animal from one single DNA. Because, once again, as I was referring back to a similar movie series that we all know that had done this before, and of course, we all know where it ended up at, what happened, but if anyone knows what I'm talking about, because they've done this, and so what movie, if you could think of it, because I'm about to play the scene, anyone know what movie series I'm talking about, where they have done animals genetic engineering, extracting DNA and putting it into an egg? Hint, hint.
My dear Dr. Sattler, welcome to Jurassic Park.
And it's like one of my favorites movie series, Jurassic Park. And as I was going through the game and seeing how extremely real these animals are, it had me thinking, this is kind of a similar situation and plot Jurassic Park had. You know, they were created by DNA, and of course, when they created the dinosaurs, they went, like I said, if you need geese, like if you see this, please tell me I'm on the right track. You don't have to give me a yes or no, but please tell me I'm on the right track with this. Because this is the only actual fact of how animals can be created, because this is an actual fact. This is how they can be created and how it works. And if anyone has read the books of Jurassic Park, or even the movie series, like either or, everyone knows how they created the dinosaurs, because they extracted that paleo DNA from the fossil bones that they found, and even the guts of mosquitoes that were crystallized in amber, and they had insert that DNA into an egg cell, or AKA an egg, and just wait over time for it to hatch, and poof, a baby dinosaur, whatever dinosaur it was, whatever species it was, poof. What if Indigo Park did the same thing to these actual mascots, to these actual animals? What if they did the same process? Because that's the only way they was able to make these animals. Genetic engineering, it's an actual thing. Creating animals and giving these new traits. That's how they were able to give the mascots these traits. Being trained to act the way they are supposed to in an amusement park. I mean, they were training them to act the way they would love to in the park, you know? And from what we all think, well, I think that it may have worked for a while, but then, of course, as we know in one of Molly McCall's voice lines, get back in the cage, bird.
You stupid freak. Get back in your cage, bird.
Is that they were being mistreated and they were kept in captivity and they were created without knowing to learn behaviors of the animal that they are, except for they were being taught of what they're supposed to do in an amusement park. And that's actually how one of the reasons why these dinosaurs in Jurassic Park went on the rampage, went rogue the way they were, because they were not they were when they were hatched, they were not given any parental no parentals of knowing how to learn behaviors. And it's the same thing with these animal mascots, these animals that they were created to be mascots. And of course, it would be kind of like a spell was like inflicted on them, but that was just from captivity, malnourishment, and left being uncared for. That could be one of them. What if that was one of the reasons why the mascots went on the rampage it did? It could be. It literally could be. And it also has me wondering, because since Rambly is AI, he watches through the camera, he can watch through the cameras, he has access to doors and can control the amusement park. Couldn't he have a part in it too? What if? So that brings me to the conclusion of chapter 1 of Indigo Park. So once again, Unique Geese, thank you for a wonderful game of Indigo Park. And we are going to get into chapter 2, which is going to be released this year, hopefully early, if possible, please. And we're going to be exploring Oceanic Odyssey, and we're going to be exploring it, completing tasks, and for Rambly the raccoon, facing obstacles, and of course running into familiar characters, the mascots, such as Finley the sea serpent and Scurvy the coyote. And hopefully in this new chapter we can find out more about what happened of the incident of the park that forced it to close down 8 years ago. And also find out more about the park and the founder too, because we don't know what happened to the founder. I mean, yeah, he could have passed away, you know, by natural death, but maybe not. So, thank you guys for tuning in, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'm going to go ahead and finish enjoying my chocolate chip cookies because I just nailed this one in the butt. Can I say that? I think I could.